think it's important to talk about it because I think a lot of it gets taken for granted. The idea that the religion plays such a big part also means there are a lot of blind spots. People don't talk about it because, we just follow what the religion says. But sometimes it overlooks the individual, their own personal entry point into it, their own personal experiences. The question about why it's a certain way sometimes also doesn't get addressed. So there's a lot of questions that people just leave it to, you know what, we'll deal with it when the time comes. But what if it's too late? And also, I think I'm as guilty of it myself. It's just, you can always talk about it some other time. Because we go back to, what we should do or what we should not do, but we don't go through why. And the conversations don't take place, and then we live by these like set of rules that never get questioned. Because at the end of the day, it's so tightly linked to religion as well. It's like, certain things the religion says no. But actually, if you do a bit more research, you have conversations with the right people, you find out actually there are nuances to it. And I think these are the nuances that the Malay community sometimes don't have, because we always think about afterlife. Because we know life, it ends, and there's an afterlife, which is the eternal life in Islam. But we still have to go through that journey, right? So why not talk about that journey and have as pleasant a journey, as a fulfilling one that we can?
I will just go with my personal experience first, stories. For me, when I just got married, right, I like to talk about like, if I die, you cry or not? It's that kind of like silly questions at first, to lead to a more deeper. But I couldn't go deeper at that point of time because my husband was like, why you always talk about death? He like, it's scary to him. I told him, before I met him actually, I was already preparing myself to grow old alone. So it's like I clean up my whole house actually, it's like, okay, I will only have this number of clothes, 2 shoes, and that, so that if I die, people who come to my house, they will only have like, very little to clean up. They so that I don't trouble people when I die and all that. And then this kind of things, when I tell certain people, they don't understand this. Like, this is so morbid to some people. Like, you're actually preparing yourself to, to die like that. It's either that people think it's sad or whatsoever. I say, no, I'm trying to make your life easier. They didn't think of, that what I'm trying to do. I even prepared, certain insurance for hospitalization. I tell, my friends, okay, what are the insurance I have, and I tell my insurance agent what kind of insurance I need. If one day I'm not mobile to do things myself, I want a maid. So this maid will earn this money from this, from my CPF or whatsoever. It's very detailed. Then my agent even was like, Molly, people usually think about themselves, not their maid. I said, no, I have to take care of my maid, because if I take care of her now, she will take care of me. And I don't even have maid, No, but this is preparing. If something happened to me, I don't want to burden my family. I will have a helper who is being taken care of financially so that she can take care of me. So, but then when I talk to people about this, to them it's morbid. So I realized that, we have to normalize this, this kind of topic, this kind of talking. It's like just so that everybody will have their preference, care. What do I call?
Why isn't it common in the Malay community to have conversations like that?
Because it all boils down to like, mentality of like rida, tawakal. Like, I leave it to God lah. If it happen, it happen, or my family will know what to do lah. Don't worry, this kind of thing is not for your worry, but other people worry. Then I'm like, how if other people don't have that kind of like financial support also? It's like, at least if I am preparing it now, I don't trouble my family. They might have other things, to worry about. Basically, I don't want to be a burden to anybody.
I also think that a lot of times people seem to be able to articulate what death is. Like, the
but
process, but not dying, and then the post-dying process. So that's the bit that actually I think conversations are always missing. And I think, the story that I shared about the Malay-Muslim that I've met, and I realized that they could talk about what death means. Meaning they go to the next phase, meaning that they're closer to God. But then the conversation about how to get there is never quite there. And I think that's the kind of conversations we need to have, as well as after that, then the survivors, how are they will go through? And I think personally, I also think that the mental wellness of any community has to do with how the community deal with loss. And we don't know how to deal with loss. The community actually get affected because you can't articulate it, you don't know what it means, and it's hurting you, and you don't know how to move on.
This also was my mistake that I learned the grieving process. So I think when I was younger, I was told that if somebody who passed on, right, you shouldn't like grieve for them or talk about them anymore, because it make the spirit or soul actually hard to go. That was a misconception. When I grew up, I learned more and all that. I was like, oh, actually no. And I actually stopped a best friend of mine, talk about her boyfriend at that point of time who passed on. And I say, hey, you keep talking about him, his soul will not move on, like that. Then actually, I apologize after I know better, right? I mean, why do I stop people from grieving? Then I'm like, yeah, it doesn't make sense actually to stop this grieving or, to speak on other person's behalf of, like how they should grieve or whatsoever.